EVO. Hello and welcome back to the final Devil's Ledger episode of 2025. So, there's something about the final week of the year that kind of feels like standing in a doorway, one foot in what was, the lights, the music, the long dinners, the family arguments, the nostalgia, the exhaustion, and the other foot tentatively stepping in to whatever comes next. So, before we get started, wherever you're listening from, I hope the new year brings you peace, good health, and at least a few moments of unexpected joy. And if you're anything like me, I hope the quiet of winter gives you a second to breathe. Because winter has a way of just stripping things down. The days are short, the nights are long, shapes in the dark seem a little sharper, and stories, especially the darker ones, they echo differently in the cold. All right, so let's get into it. As always, we start with the creepiest thing that I heard this week. This week, hey, I'm an animal lover. This is the winter screams of the Michigan Dogman. So there's a stretch of winter in the upper Midwest where the cold stops feeling seasonal and it starts to feel territorial. Michigan knows that kind of weather. Snow doesn't fall so much as arrive and stay. The wind doesn't whistle. It climbs into the seams of the house and presses its face against the glass. The forests go silent. Even the deer move differently, cautious, as if they know the rules change once the lakes freeze. And every year around this time, something else comes back too. Stories, whispers, reports that sound ridiculous in the daylight and terrifying at 2 a.m. The Michigan Dogman. If you've never heard of it, imagine the wrong parts of several things stitched together. A massive wolf's head, shoulders like a man, long limbs capable of standing upright, not comfortably, but convincingly, thick dark fur, yellow eyes that reflect light like lonely road signs, claws that don't quite match anything in the biology books, and the scream. Witnesses never describe it the same way. Some say it starts like a howl and then snaps into something human. Others swear it's the opposite. It's a man's scream that breaks open into something wild and bottomless. A few just say it's the sound of the woods realizing that you don't belong there. Most encounters happen near rural roads, cabins, hunting trails, places where civilization thins out and the line between out here and in there becomes kind of negotiable. And what I heard this week wasn't from the 1800s. It wasn't some old lumberjack legend, not a ghost story dragged around a campfire like a log. This one was recent. A family spending these holidays at a rental cabin north of a place called Cadillac. Snowed in, power flickering. They'd gone outside after midnight because the kids wanted to see the stars, and, winter stars in Michigan have a way of seeming to float closer than they should. But then they heard it. Before they saw anything, they heard it. At first they thought maybe a coyote, but it was deeper and heavier, like something bigger was trying to imitate a smaller animal and failing at it. Then it stretched out into a long rattling shriek that made one of the kids start crying immediately. The father said the sound felt directed, as if it wasn't just in the woods, that it was pointed at them. He thought maybe, okay, it's a neighbor messing around, or a drunk snowmobiler, or somebody out hunting after dark, until it stepped into the spill of the porch light. He said the thing was hunched over at first, shaped like a wolf on two awkward legs, but then it straightened. Not fully, just enough to remind everyone watching that what they were looking at didn't belong to the forest in any recognizable way. Those yellow eyes, the breath steaming in slow, deliberate bursts. Not curious, not panicked, evaluating. It didn't rush, it didn't lunge, it just stood there, head slightly tilted, as if cataloging who and what was on the porch. Then the scream came again, louder up close, vibrating the wood planks beneath their feet, and just as suddenly, it was gone, back into the tree line. The quiet returned so fast it felt staged. And yes, they called the local sheriff. Sheriff suggested coyotes, maybe a big dog gone feral, maybe a bear. Though bears don't usually scream like that, and they definitely don't walk the way this thing walked. But the father swears, and this is the part that really stuck with me. He said it didn't feel like an animal encountering humans. He said it felt like something that had been there long before they arrived, simply stepping up to remind them whose season it actually was. Now, whether it's folklore, fear, misidentification, or something we don't really have the vocabulary for yet, winter has a strange way of amplifying whatever already scares us. The nights grow longer, the borders blur, sound travels farther, and in the deep cold of Michigan, where forests freeze into cathedrals, the idea that something ancient might still wander through the trees doesn't feel entirely impossible. And if the Dogman really is out there, winter is probably when it likes to talk. Or scream. Quietly, of course. At least for now. This week on The Devil Within, we went back twice to the threshold of New Year's Eve and the morning after. Two women, a decade apart, whose lives ended in ways that could not have been more different, and yet both feel like the universe suddenly snapping in half. First, the story of Helle Crafts, a beloved mother, a Danish flight attendant living in Connecticut, and trapped in a marriage that had grown colder than any winter storm. When she vanished in November of 1986, there was no body, there was no grave, no obvious crime scene. But there were clues, tiny ones, frozen ones. Evidence so fragmented that investigators had to literally piece the story back together from nothing. What emerged was one of the most shocking crimes in American history. So shocking that prosecutors had to argue the unthinkable in court. A murder conviction without a body. The case didn't just make headlines, it changed how the law understood circumstantial evidence. It forced the system to evolve in order to hold a killer accountable. And then, 10 years later, another disappearance. Patricia Viola, a loving wife and mother from New Jersey. She left her home one February afternoon and simply never came back. No violent crime scene, no suspect, no smoking gun narrative to hang on to. Just absence, silence, a mystery that kept unraveling into more questions than answers. And while fragments of truth eventually surfaced, the emotional gravity of the case never quite settled. Unlike Helle Crafts, there was no courtroom catharsis. No, we finally get it. Just a lingering ache, the kind that sits with a family forever. Two women, two winters, one defined by horrifying certainty, the other by a mystery that refuses to fully explain itself. This week on the Ides of April, we're taking a quick detour, kind of a circle back. It's a shorter segment this week to examine how myth and murder sometimes fuse into legend. Specifically, the dagger that allegedly killed the topic of last week's episode, Grigory Rasputin, the infamous Russian mystic whose death has been retold so many times it barely resembles the truth anymore. Was there really a singular cursed dagger? Did it pass through royal hands? Was it ever truly tied to Rasputin's demise? Or is it just another artifact onto which people project power, fear, and meaning? We look at how relics like that survive, not necessarily because they're authentic, but because humans desperately want symbols, objects that let us hold history in our hands, even when history refuses to cooperate. Full-length episodes of the Ides of April return next week. On Taboo Treasures, unfortunately, the boys are still on hiatus, so the vault remains closed for now. Stay tuned. This week on Criminal Mischief, we're dipping into our best of 2025 and revisiting one of Carolyn's favorites, our deep dive into Billy the Kid. Not the campfire legend, not the Hollywood outlaw, but the complicated, reckless, strangely charismatic teenager who somehow became a symbol of both defiance and disaster on the American frontier. We look at what's real, what's myth, and why we keep romanticizing someone who left so much chaos in his wake. If you missed it the first time, This is a great one to catch. And if you heard it before, it might hit differently the second time around. This week in horror. Okay, after the past month of ghosts and demons and murderers, missing persons and historical bloodshed, maybe it's time for something technically horror, but also ridiculous enough to let your nervous system take a break. This week's pick, Anaconda. A monster movie, yes, featuring a giant killer snake and an increasingly unhinged jungle expedition, but starring two of the all-time greats, Paul Rudd and Jack Black. It's campy, it's absurd, it's the cinematic equivalent of eating popcorn you definitely didn't need. And sometimes, laughing at a giant snake is exactly what we all deserve. So as we close the book on this year, thank you for listening, thank you for sharing, for rating, for sending messages, and generally traveling into the dark with us. May your new year be safe, may it be calm, and may whatever is standing just outside your door remember that it is in fact not invited inside. Before you go, make sure you're following The Devil's Ledger and all of our shows wherever you listen. If you like what we're doing, a quick rating or review really helps keep this whole thing alive. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes and exclusive clips from every EVO Creative show on our YouTube channel. So subscribe to EVO Creative and turn on notifications. You can find all of our work at evocreative.com. And if you've got a story that you think we should hear, email us at info@evocreative.com. Sleep well, or don't. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to check the show notes for amazing deals from the great sponsors who still support long-form storytelling. Quince, luxury essentials at affordable prices. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Go to quince.com/devilwithin. Mint Mobile, premium wireless for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/devilwithin. ExpressVPN, protect your data anywhere. Get up to 4 months free. Go to expressvpn.com/devilwithin. Mood, CBD and THC gummies shipped nationwide. Go to mood.com/devilwithin for 20% off. Ollie Dog Food, real, fresh, human-grade meals for your dog. Get 60% off your first box at ollie.com/ides. And Monarch, the only finance app you'll ever need. Get 50% off your first year at monarch.com/ides. The Devil's Ledger is an EVO production, recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. For The Devil's Ledger, I'm your writer and host, Brandon Morgan.